good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming in. Please join us on giving a warm welcome to Dearta Logu Fusaro.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you for being here and supporting us. Thank you, Dearta. Thank you for being here, and it's our honor to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Who is Dearta? Can you tell us more about you and where you're from? And
Yeah, sure. I was born in Albania. I moved to the United States when I was 12. I grew up in New York City. I now live in Connecticut. I've always been a fan of the written word, but have never attempted such a project until this time around. So my full-time job is being a finance person. So if you need anything after this, call me. I can help you out.
you are not just on the books, right?
No, I'll know the price of the book more than what.
Don't get it on a business right away.
Okay. The Illyrian Way. What was the moment or question that first sparked the idea for this book?
The first moment about the journey that I took to the Western Balkans is different from what sparked the idea about the book. The journey that incited the idea for the Illyrian Way was based on a personal quest to find out why my father, who had been recently diagnosed with cancer, had requested to rest his soul back home. And the idea of back home shook me because we had decided, well, my parents had decided, I hadn't decided, but we had decided as a family that home was going to be the United States. And they were pretty adamant about that. And it's where we live, and it's where we thrived, and it's where most of our memories were made. And then there was this deep moment where I had to figure out what back home meant, and why wouldn't he be, when the date came, here with us where we live. And I went to ask myself various questions, as you guys can imagine, about what identity means and what belonging means, and what makes me Albanian or American, and whether I have to choose or not. And so I took a hike, as Americans say, to figure that out. And I decided to take a longer distance hike than within my own birthland of Albania in order to understand the context of what home meant, given the history of the region. So I had my journey, I asked my questions, I came back home, and that was supposed to be the end of it.
And you decided your home is United States, right? After the trip or before the trip?
I knew before the trip that my home was the United States. The trip did not change that.
All right. I'm jealous because still my one leg is here and one leg is back in Albania. But
Yeah,
I need to decide.
Maybe you should read the book.
Or maybe I need to take this trip too. All right. Why was important for you to focus on Illyrian heritage, like philosophy or identity?
It was important for me to search for my Albanian identity within the region of the Western Balkans. And then while I was in the region and walking, overwhelmingly, it became apparent that the Illyrian identity was alive after 2 centuries of it disappearing in every country in this region, and I didn't anticipate that. And so that Illyria revealed itself to me much, much later and without anticipating it. But as an Albanian, being in an Illyrian region or Illyrian origin region, I have a personal story with that, I grew up in Shkodër, Albania, and Rozafa Castle, which was an Illyrian fort, was on the footsteps of my neighborhood. And my mom took us often, my sisters and I, to climb the stairs. And, we talked about Illyria and Queen Teuta. And sometimes I was called that when I was opinionated, or had mischievous behavior, stop being Queen Teuta. And I hadn't realized until much later in life that Queen Teuta and I had 2,000 years apart. And yeah, that's how Albanians perhaps think of Illyria as present day, although it's a thing of the
Do
past.
you think from outside you're gonna see in a bigger picture than being in Albania or like Macedonia or whatever in Eastern Europe? You're gonna see bigger picture from when you live from outside. Because I think over there it's more divided, and you can notice from inside.
Yeah.
From outside, I think you can.
It's hard to say, because the story is my personal experience and perspective, and obviously I went there with some specific questions and quest to experience, but I would say that there's been so much tragedy in the region that when there's tragedy, when there's not security, when there's no democracy, when there's insecurity in your neighbor, whether it's within the country or outside of the borders, that people think more just about themselves and they isolate themselves in that realm. And so I don't think that the Western Balkans is there yet to be able to see each other in that way, right? So, if Albanians want to go and be tourists somewhere, they're not going to their neighboring countries.
But I find, in connection to your word, I find that we have much more similarities than differences.
Yeah.
Even here, for all you coming from that Balkans region, I think it's something strange that happens whenever we see someone in the street. And I think this is universal for all of us. We kind of automatically know that that person is from Balkans region, but somehow we cannot describe it. We just know.
Yeah.
So
The mannerisms, probably.
I don't know, there is something, you just like pick on it, and this is with whomever I spoke with, they're like, oh yes, well, you can tell, but I cannot describe how. There's something about it.
Yeah.
So we do, right? You being in there as an outsider, how much you saw these similarities, how can you describe them? There's probably a long conversation about that, but like in general.
It was very rewarding to see the similarities. I had spent my entire upbringing thinking that I was a very unique person to be Albanian and to think about either cuisine or the mannerisms or hospitality or gardening or identity within the region. But as I met people moving from mountain peak to mountain peak, guest house to guest house, it felt, after a while, you get very comfortable in seeking food and smiles and refuge from people. And I felt that I was going to my grandmother's house, even though I was going to 7 different countries. They were all very warm. They were all very hospitable. And they were warm and hospitable, thinking that my husband and I were American tourists. And I was apprehensive at first about sharing with them why I was doing my journey. And I wasn't sure how they would take my quest for identity and asking the hard questions about reconciliation in the Western Balkans. But once we got warmed up and I did share, their faces and their smiles and their words that followed once they found out I was Albanian, it was so heartwarming. They felt closer to me. They called me sister. They wanted to know a lot more about me and why I was there, and they were happy to have me there and in their homes once they realized I wasn't only an American tourist.
That's amazing. Before we delve more into the book, I would like to hear it from you. What does the Illyrian Way mean to you personally and for the readers encountering it for the first time?
Yeah.
How would you describe the core message?
Yeah. I think I say that best in the book. There's a page in the beginning. Yeah. And I think I'll read a bit about what Illyria means. I think some of you that don't know what Illyria means,
Yeah, will be
you wanna
great.
know what Illyria means, and then I'll also talk
Even
about
for
what
the guys
Illyrian
on the
Way is
TV,
to you.
on the YouTube,
Yeah.
they would be great.
All right. So first I'll talk about Illyria. And disclaimer, I'm not a historian or a researcher, so this is what Illyria means to me and as I understand it. The ancient lands of Illyria roughly coincide with those of Western Balkans today. In antiquity, people of Illyria were farmers, fishers, traders, pastoral, tribal, and did not see themselves as being one people, or perhaps not even identified as Illyrian. Not many people outside of the Western Balkans know about Illyria. Its written history lacks breadth and frequency across centuries and libraries. But the people of the Western Balkans have not forgotten about Illyria. They've passed down many oral histories about it, some of it confusing and non-factual, some of it self-serving. Nonetheless, natives carry incredible pride and curiosity to share and learn more about the mysterious Illyria. Like all lands, Illyria was swept through many migrations, wars, empires, philosophies, religions, and tradecraft. When speaking of the period between 4th century BC and 19th century AD, the known timeline of Illyria, spanning 22 centuries, one must keep in mind that people then cannot be considered as monolithic entities who were not subject to identity molding. Even so, despite all of the elements that have influenced it throughout history, Illyria's exclusive culture comes through in terms of tools and ways of building, agricultural and fishing habits, food preservations, names, words, burial customs, etc. Another fascinating view is that the unique Illyrian culture as encapsulated in burial grounds across the Western Balkans shows breadth and commonality, albeit it was separated geographically between sea, lowlands, and alpine. And as a geographical area that has united through centuries across the Roman Empire, across Slavic migration, and then again across the Ottoman Empire, it is a land worthy of history and of each preserved cultural layer of its multicultural blanket. And Illyria ceased to exist in the 19th century, mid-century, right after the Ottoman Empire fell and new countries were created. And then a bit about what Illyria means to me, or the Illyrian Way, or why I coined it that, is that the Illyrian Way is a physical trail along the mountain peaks and forests around the Adriatic Sea. There are 3 established long-distance trails that I've stitched together for the hiker to experience 7 countries in the Western Balkans in one go. These established trails are called Via Dinarica, Peaks of Balkans, and High Skardis. And altogether, they make up over 965 miles of hiking. And I've referred to Western Balkans for a bit now, and in case some of you are geographically challenged and don't know what the Western Balkans mean, it's Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Montenegro, North Macedonia, Kosovo, and Albania. And speaking of these trails, my husband and I hiked 435 miles of it, roughly. The Illyrian Way is also a mental journey of discovering culture from the comfort of your own home through this book. It depicts a unique cultural blend of West and East, of Christianity and Islam, of communism and democracy, and of various ethnic identities, the larger 2 being Slavic and Albanian, that have shaped the region. It is so much more than a place you may associate with corruption, poverty, and conflict, due to mainstream media often focusing their reporting on grief rather than celebratory human stories. And lastly, for me, the Illyrian Way is a spiritual journey, a pilgrimage into my own heritage, one in which I embarked on out of personal grief, history, and fear, but that left me feeling hopeful, proud, and joyful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, you're getting too serious.
All right.
You're scaring me.
Let's go back to fun time.
How much of your personal life did you put on your Illyrian Way pages? Or experiences?
Yeah, I mean, the words are mine, the experience is mine, the perspective is mine. I don't claim, and my husband's a little bit. He was there with me every step of the way, so to speak. I tried to minimize my personal story in the book after I realized that the story was going to go public, because I realized that the story is more important than just talking about me, Dearta, and my personal story when it comes to the Western Balkans. But that was no easy feat, to talk about the Western Balkans and to reflect them. I tried my best. You'll let me know once you read the book.
Got it.
However, I think what's important in reflecting about my personal journey is to ensure that when you write about yourself and you are in someone else's home or land, you should always think about what they think of you as well. And that's given, maybe you'll ask me later about the challenges, but that's given me a pause about this book being seen as a invitation for tourism in the Western Balkans, because I'm very worried and concerned about exploitation of these beautiful villages and land. Yeah. And so I'm more interested in pulling back the wave if this book is offering a way to do tourism there. I'd like to talk more about doing ethical tourism rather than just taking it and wanting to have that same experience that I did.
Thank you.
That was my following question. It is such a unique blend. It's a part guidebook, part home remedies, recipes. Yeah. It's a cultural heritage. In today's world, where publishing has to have a specific kind of formula, I feel like it has to be in a certain box. How did you navigate the writing and publishing process?
well, first and foremost, I think I was tremendously lucky to have had a publishing house that championed voices that followed formulas other than the Western formulas for publishing. They were very careful about giving me the privilege and the opportunity for my voice, including the grammar, which I often was very worried about allowing my voice to stand in the way that it was created at first. And that the market is, they said, the market was oversaturated with the same formulas. And then where I got my own strength to do something like this, as I mentioned earlier, I've been an admirer of the written word for a very long time, since I can ever remember. And I remember my mom had a ritual for her and I to rearrange the bookshelves in our home library. And this happened like every quarter, it seemed like, or every season that passed. Sometimes we would do it alphabetically, sometimes by color, sometimes by genre. And my books, my children books, were right next to my mom's and my dad's and the bookshelves. And I felt a sense of pride that, my books were there too. And I haven't asked her this, but I wonder, and I'd like to believe that the reason why she was going through this process with me was that she didn't have the ability to read these books, or the permission to read the books that were on the bookshelves when she was my age, because she grew up during communism, and most of the books that we were rearranging, she was reading herself for the first time, the adult books, and then she wanted to give me the permission to share those bookshelves together.
This is amazing.
And so she gave me the freedom for literature when she experienced suppression of literature. And so combining the publishing house, allowing me to have my own voice, I said, well, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to do anything that I'm allowed to do because I've been given the privilege and the freedom to do so.
Wow, this is amazing story. Thank you for sharing it with us.
Hi, Mom.
Shout out to the mom.
Did your perspective on your own roles or identity change while you're writing? Did you get something from your,
I did. Albanians are so good at making you their own, right? They make you feel this pride about being Albanian and how rooted you are, and then the specific principles and values that we live by. And so maybe I had some bias or ego going into my trip and thinking that I was probably the better, the Albanians were the better of the Western Balkans. I still think so. No, I'm just kidding. What I learned actually is that accepting accepting other cultures that are like yours and celebrating those similarities together don't actually subtract from your own sense of belonging in your own culture. It only adds to it.
Yeah.
And before going in this journey, I think I was afraid of accepting that and saying so. Right? So I'm now proud to be from the region of the Western Balkans and talk about all the different bureks that we make. And I don't really care who makes it better at this point.
Don't make me hungry.
While celebrating my own traditions as well.
My mom's burek is best. Don't tell that.
Yeah.
My mom's here, so we have to say mine's better.
We can continue this debate afterwards. But in your research, was there a discovery that surprised you or like deeply moved you?
The seeing ancient Illyria come into modern life in every country that we hiked without us anticipating it. So I hadn't thought about the term Illyria in a decade. And we didn't go on this hike thinking about Illyria. We went about to experience the Western Balkans and what being Albanian meant in that region. And as we went from country to country and walked and talked to people, the elements of Illyria kept popping up. You know, we were in Slovenia, and there was an entire town that was called Illyria. We were in Croatia, and they served us water in glasses with Illyrian helmets. We went to Bosnia, and there's an entire Illyrian town excavated, the largest that has been excavated to date.
That's so cool.
And we went to the museum in Bosnia because we got so captivated by the Illyrian theme there, and we saw an Illyrian canoe that was dug up, and it felt like it was built maybe 20 years ago, not centuries ago, and so on and so forth. And so that was my discovery, and hence why I thought about naming the trail, the journey, and then the book, The Illyrian Way.
Amazing. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you believe this book is especially relevant in today's world? Can we use it like a guide or?
I mean, you're scratching at me to get preachy.
Yeah.
And we have to keep these guys entertained, so I don't know how preachy I can get, but I find it most relevant today in the political arena that we're in the United States, actually. Coming back from the Western Balkans, thinking and feeling reconciliation is what's needed. And seeing how normal citizens that I met and talked with had no hard feelings about me as an Albanian, being in their territories, asking the questions, wanting to engage in this conversation with them. And then coming back home and seeing how it's happening in modern day in my home in the United States, and how every family is, in a way, divided in this current political arena. And I wonder, sometimes I wonder, since I've written this book, I wonder if U.S. citizens can actually ask Western Balkan folks a few questions, because they know a lot more about this. They've been at this for a while, and what it means to, not feel that your government is a democracy, to not feel security for your family and for your well-being, and to not know governance. Yeah.
Probably they can relate now.
I mean, it's good to
but-
explain for the folks on YouTube or whatever why it's really hard to go, one Albanian to go into Serbia, or they have that fear because of the past,
history.
but it's not that hard to go and talk to like everywhere in Balkan. It has they have like the Albanian, they have that fear to go in Serbia or Montenegro, but it's not that hard, like you said, to go and talk to people and like have a conversation. So to explain to
And from inside out, from your experience, I hope this does, beside being relatable to this situation spark interest to the Western Balkans tourism. I really hope.
Ethical tourism.
Yes. What was moving away from the politics? What was the most challenging part of writing the book in like intellectual, emotional, or creative level?
Representing others, representing their voices, representing the Western Balkans, representing their history, representing my country. I mean, I was most scared about my family reading it than anyone else reading it. And
May I go into
Yeah.
details for why?
Because Albanian families are the best at keeping you humble and ensuring that they tell you everything that you've done wrong first before they give you a compliment.
Or you can.
Does anyone relate in this audience? Yeah.
Or you can definitely do it better. It's okay. Che muito mami. That means you could do it better.
I wrote the book, or the idea of the book came after I had had my experiences with the people in the Western Balkans. And so representing those candid moments that we had together in written form, although I asked for their consent and I shared drafts with them, it was very nerve-wracking to represent that moment that wasn't meant to be publicized in any way, shape, or form, then to go back to them and say, this sparked an interest in me to write about you, and now it's not just to my family, but it's public. And what do you think of it? That was the most challenging part. And also challenging was to remove any photos that my husband and I had in bathing suits along the Adriatic Sea. I did not want those published either.
What lesson from the Illyrian way of life do you think modern society could benefit from, like, today?
I think about Illyrians, they're similar to Native Americans. So Illyrians were various tribes. They had their own governance. They were democratic. They lived with nature. And they also thought about, ancestors similar to Native Americans did, right? And that that life is sort of a relay where, your ancestors pass the baton to you, and then you pass the baton to someone else, and that you are a very, small dot in that larger family story or tribal story. And maybe it's because I'm drinking my own Kool-Aid and I came from this journey, but I think that there's something in a world where, we're filled with Amazon orders and we don't know where our food comes from, that there's something for us to think about, whether it's the Illyrians or the Native Americans that live here, and whether we can make any amends to our lifestyle.
Thank you.
We are some very proud Albanians, but I think I haven't met any Albanian that wasn't proud of being an Albanian. But for younger generations, we have some here tonight, what do you think is the best way for them to kind of preserve this cultural heritage in a meaningful way?
I was talking to my sister about this during Christmas, and she said something that stuck with me. She said, we today are the ancestors. We're making, history and we're moving our traditions forward as we speak. And that's how culture and tradition works. It's linear. And that there is no, you don't wait for a specific wisdom to come to you. You just are yourself, and you do your best to understand what your parents and what your grandparents taught you about culture and tradition, but then you add your own, and then you pass it along. And so I don't, you've become the poster child for youth in this room, so I'm looking at you, but there shouldn't be any stress or dilemma about what you're doing with our culture or tradition, because it's yours to do whatever you want with. And you're just adding to it. We've brought you up onto this point, and then you add to it and you make it better and beautiful in your own way, just like your parents did.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What do you hope readers feel or reflect after finishing the Illyrian Way? I mean, finishing reading.
Probably a sense of belonging, to wherever the readers belong to in their identity or in their journey for identity. I hope I was clear that, for me, what I realized is that there's no need to choose, and there shouldn't be any pressure in saying that home is in the United States, yet you are from a different culture, and that your culture became Albanian and American, and there's no need to choose between the two. But then for folks that maybe aren't first generation or second generation, and they don't have these questions, is more about, have you moved from Brooklyn to Westchester County or Tarrytown, and what does that mean for you? Do you belong in both? Do you not? The idea is that you are both, because you're you and you've made this choice. And so hopefully it alleviates some of that stress that we give ourselves about who we want to present ourselves to ourselves and to others, if we've moved. And if we've moved cultures, or if we've combined cultures.
Yes, you already dived into this, but if there's just one idea or value that the readers can take away from the Illyrian Way, what you will want it to be? You mentioned belonging, being you, but is that something more you would like to add to this?
I saw myself struggle with this during this process, where I wondered how much of me was me versus what I wanted others to believe I believed. And my friend Dearta's here too, who is my editor. And she often thought about that question, because I presented her with that question often. And she said, just be you. There's no one better at being you than you. So just remember that. And remember that you're not writing to represent a million voices. You're writing your own viewpoint, and you're adding to it. So take the pressure off from you. And so whether it's the Illyrian Way or any book or any artistic pursuit, I would say take the pressure off and just be you. And by taking the pressure off, I mean from the external forces that need your validation, but it doesn't mean that you don't put in hard work. That is the key as well. There's no quick fix to finding your own voice. you have to question yourself and judge yourself and write again and read it again and come up with something that you're proud of for yourself.
Thank you.
As we know, your book was published in London, then come back here, and it's been so far outside. And some people they read. What do you think the response is so far from the book? Did you get some response from critics or?
Critics, not yet. I'm waiting for it.
No.
I'm waiting for the other shoe to
I'm
drop.
gonna make one.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
It's been overwhelming. The first and foremost, and what I find most important, is the guest houses and the people that are represented in this book reaching out to me, and being extremely overjoyed by the way that I represented our time together, and them feeling, they say, like, you made us sound like celebrities in the book. Well, they are. They just don't know it.
They just don't know it yet.
They don't know it yet. And then the way that the book was designed and created, which my text did not do, but the publishing team did, has also gotten a lot of good feedback. It's not common to have books like this be in with colored photos, and have so much photos and text combined, and it be multi-genred, and then also have holes in the
That's
front
my
and the
critic.
back, which is not
That's
also
my critic. Why holes, but looks good.
I could tell you about the holes if you'd like.
No, we get.
I think there's much more to the story, right? It's always more to the story. I hope you're going to do another one.
Another what?
In the
Another
future.
hole?
No, not a hole. Another book to kind of
Fill the hole?
No, it's just I said that because I want to relate to my last question. Author's favorite question in quotes. Time to spill the tea. What's your next project? What are you working on?
I have been working on and off for years now on a children's book series called Along the Road. There's 2 Labrador puppies that steal my Jeep, go in a wishing well, want to try to get as far away from me as possible, go and visit wonderful places in the world and meet with various species. And at first, they never want to come back home. They're in awe with the world. But at some point, as they're experiencing more and more, they realize that they miss home and where they belong. And they start coming back to Connecticut.
I can't wait.
For what age they are, like, I mean, the project.
Preteen.
We need another ship.
With that one. All right. Well, thank you so much